Hey, this is Rick Caselge, injury specialist from exercisesforinjuries.com. Today I have another interview for you, and it's with Fred. And I'll get Fred to introduce himself, and then we'll get into the bulk of the interview.
Hi, Rick. Great to see you, man. So my name is Fred Schaefer, and I am 57 years young, and I've actually been studying fitness, health, and wellness since I was 14 years old. I developed a great passion and interest for that because I was a skinny, weak, deconditioned kid that wanted to play football, and I started at age 14. Been studying it for 43 years. I've got a bachelor's degree in nutrition and a master's degree in wellness promotion. And I've also got several different personal trainer certifications in regards to functional fitness and nutrition, et cetera, and have been training people one-on-one since 1995. But in 2002, Rick, I developed kind of a frustration wanting to get the word out more, and just through a series of events started speaking. And it developed into basically a full-time business of going around the United States of America and speaking at all types of conferences, primarily on high-performance fitness, health, and wellness. And then that branched into speaking at a lot of healthcare conferences. And then people said, Fred, you should write a book. So in 2005, I actually wrote a soft cover book, How Anyone Can Become a Lean, Fat Incinerating, Anti-Aging Wellness Machine. I hadn't learned the art of brevity just yet, so it was a long title. But then even with that, Rick, I got frustrated that there wasn't something out there that people could actually follow along. I mean, that was a good book, don't get me wrong, but I felt something needed to be more of a program that people could follow. So that's when I went online and created 50 Fit. So it's a 28-day comprehensive workout program, nutrition program for people over the age of 50. It's sold in 55 countries now, which I'm pretty excited about. So
that's very cool. That's very cool. Now, so I mean, you kind of focus on, I know I'm quite sure you hate the wording, like training the older adult or, working out over your 50s. Now, like, what would be some common mistakes when it comes, I mean, so if you walk into a store and we kind of look at all the magazines, it's all like everyone like in their 20s and 30s.
Right.
The vast majority of people are probably over their 50s. Now, what would be mistakes or common mistakes that people over 50 would make when it comes to training?
When it comes to training, okay, well, 4 or 5 really big ones. But first of all, I like to start off with the premise that the number one threat, or that, when you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, right, you want to have like lean, cut, fit, strong body. And the truth is, so do people over 50. But the methods to getting there are a little bit different. But I like to point out the number one threat to our health, because you see so many people struggling with health over 50, is sarcopenia, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yeah.
That's a Greek word that means poverty of the flesh. And I worked in healthcare for a long time in hospitals, and you see it there is people over the age of 50 are starting to lose muscle. But sarcopenia really is related to what they call muscle wasting. And you'll see it like when people get really sick with cancer, right? And they're not able to keep, they go into this phase where they're losing a lot of muscle. And once that happens, they lose their immune system is messed up. It's not good. But unfortunately, over the age of 50, people kind of volunteer for it because they stop focusing on muscle gain, muscle strength. So I think that's the number one mistake that people make over the age of 50 when it comes to training, is they're still kind of concerned with burning calories. That's important, don't get me wrong, but over the age of 50, the shift should really be to gaining functional strength.
Oh, okay.
Because as you gain functional strength, because if you don't, especially over the age of 50, you're going to lose that muscle, and as a result, you'll lose functional strength. And when you lose the muscle, it lowers your metabolism, and you tend to put fat on, which is what happens to people over 50. So the number one mistake, I think, is they focus too much on burning calories, as opposed to making the number one goal to add functional strength and add muscle. So related to that, I'm going to hit on a couple of them if it's okay. I'll hit a couple of big mistakes that people make, is they go to one-dimensional exercise. So they'll go walking, right? Or they'll go on a treadmill, or they'll go bicycling, which are all great activities. I think we all agree with that. But they're one-dimensional movement patterns when, depending on who you want to talk to, but there's basically 7 movement patterns of the human body: push, pull, squat, lunge, bend, and stride. Again, I mean, I know you're a movement expert yourself, so you may disagree, or I may be
No,
missing.
but this interview isn't for me. It's for
Yeah, yeah.
it's for
So some people
everyone
may
that
be missing that,
exercises
but
for injuries.
right, right, right. But again, that's related to injury. Is that
Yeah.
there's at least 7 different ways that the body moves, and so you'll see a lot of people getting stuck in one thing, like bicycling or whatever. So bicycling or walking, that's striding, basically hits the lower body. I've hit on 2 so far. Number 1 is focusing on burning calories versus building functional strength and muscle. Number 2 is one-dimensional fitness. So as a person over 50, you really want to train as many movement patterns as you can, which again, I've identified 7, and really you want to do that a couple of days per week at least, so you can maintain that mobility, improve your balance, improve your strength, and improve your power. So you want to hit on all 7 movement patterns. Another one actually related to the over 50 is that people get into this mindset. I call it old fart fitness. Well, I'm just an old fart. You'll see them using the tiny little plastic dumbbells, especially women, right? So when they get into old fart fitness, they forget that really this is, again, ties into the first mistake, but people over 50 are not what I call forcing enough cell regeneration, right? So they say, well, I'm a little bit old, I don't want to work that hard. But no, really, you have the ability. You want to get into breaking down muscle tissue at least 3 days a week. I would almost say on a daily basis in some fashion, breaking down just a little bit, not going crazy. There's old fart fitness, and then there's fire breather fitness, right? Like, the crazy, we'll use CrossFit. CrossFit has value, don't get me wrong, but you'll see the 25-year-old CrossFit person, that's a fire breather. I mean, they're trying to push their body to the max. And then the old fart fitness. So you want to meet in the middle, but as a person over 50, really our goal is to break down just a little bit of muscle tissue every day so it can regenerate, as thereby every day you're getting a little bit stronger, a little bit better, a little bit higher performing, and a little bit healthier. Another one is too much simple movements, actually open chain versus closed chain. And we don't need to make it too complex, but open chain movements are where the weight is at the end of your arm, for example, the end of your arm and the end of your leg. Simple, like a bicep curl is a great example.
Yeah.
Okay. Or a leg extension exercise where bicep curl, the weight is in your hand, but it's a simple movement because the only joint that's moving is your bicep. And again, that has some value, but over the age of 50, you really want to go after compound movements, which involve more than one joint, more than one muscle group. Still affects the biceps, but you're getting greater health, greater stability, because simple open chain movements, most people don't know this, but I teach this. Most people, when you do an open chain single joint, it creates a shearing effect on the joint. You can have value, but if you overdo it, you're actually breaking down the joint. Whereas a compound movement with a closed chain, such as some form of a chin up, a modified chin up, or a suspension exercise, or a squat where your feet are on the floor, is a closed chain. So your body is actually serving as the resistance. That's a compressive force on the joint and stabilizes the joint. Again, it's a little complex, but I think I do a pretty good job of breaking it down, making it simple in my product so people understand. But an example of that is when you go to the gym and you see, especially seniors, especially people over 50, on exercise machines, like a leg extension machine. That's a simple a simple open chain, whereas they'd be better off doing a body weight squat or something to that effect, which greater stability, greater balance, breaking down more muscle tissue, more bang for your buck. And then the last one really is, oftentimes you'll see people being out of balance on their exercise. If they are doing, like, for example, something for their chest, you'll see them maybe doing a lot for their chest, a lot for the upper body push movement, but not enough for the upper body pull movement. So not enough rowing, too much pushing. So you'll see an out of balance, and again, this can create some out of balance in your joints as well. So you want to make sure that a good strength training program for people over 50 has a lot of balance, enough push, enough pull that is put in place. So I don't know if that's too much or
No, that's good. That's good.
yeah,
I like that.
yeah. A lot of
I like
mistakes.
that.
There's a
That's good.
lot of mistakes that people make just because they don't know.
Yeah. Oh, they don't know it. It's like, with me, with cars, if you lift the hood of a car and say, fix it, I have no idea where to even start. No idea where to start.
I'm the
And
same. I'm the
thing,
same.
yeah, same thing with the
Yeah.
human body and movement. And
Yeah. The exciting part is, I would say, the really exciting part is that, I mean, most people, and again, I'm just going to use people over the age of 50, they have not even scratched the surface, in my opinion, of what is possible for them physically. And if they simply made a few small adjustments that we've just talked about, I mean, I like to, it may sound a little bit, I don't know, infomercial-ish or whatever you want to call it, but they can be physical rock stars compared to what they're probably at right now if they simply knew these things.
okay, well then, so that kind of leads us to the next session. What would be your number one tip? What would you recommend? Like the one thing that people could kind of tweak when it comes to their training that's over 50 that would help them in the training right now?
Well, my number one tip would be, and again, it goes kind of against what you see in mainstream media and what you see in a lot of the marketing, right? A lot of it is appearance focused, right? Like lose weight, six-pack abs, all those things. And again, I'm all for all that. I'm all for shedding excess body fat and seeing my abs, and I think that's a great goal. However, the path to getting there, the number one tip that I would give is to focus first on improving your functional performance. So for example, whatever it might be, whether it's body weight squats, we'll just use that as an example, right? And depending on the level of the person, if you can do 10 body weight squats today, make your goal next week to get to 11 or to 12, because that's something you can actually measure and you can get excited about as you see that happening. You're saying, whoa, last week I could do 10, now I can do 11. See, the beauty of making that your goal is a lot of good things are happening under the skin, right? You're adding more muscle tissue, your bones are getting stronger, your joints are getting stronger, and as a result of that, your metabolism is going up. And as a result of that, guess what happens? You start losing excess body fat. And so you're getting everything you want, but you're just going about it by focusing on something else first. So the number one goal, seek to improve functional performance. And I would say this every day. Not a whole lot, just something I can look at that today I'm better than I was yesterday. That's it goes along with the other, I'm adding on to the tip here, Rick, but is to train more frequently. As a younger person, they'll say, you strength train 3 days a week or you exercise 3 days a week. But as we get older, again, it doesn't need to be excessive, but you want to move with purpose daily, the older you get. And I use the example of my dogs. I used to have two boxer dogs, and if dogs could talk to each other, do they wake up in the morning and say, hey, did we run yesterday? Oh, I don't know. Well, I think I did. Well, let's take it easy today. They don't do that. What do they do every day? They go flying out the door and go running. We should be the same.
That's awesome. That's awesome.